and welcome to the final one of these monthly lives that I've been doing for the best part of 3.5, maybe a bit more years now, talking to Ukrainian teachers of English about the way Russia's full-scale war of aggression has affected them, has affected their lives, and so on. At the moment in Ukraine, people are now facing their fourth Christmas since Russia launched its full-scale invasion. Inside Russia, the full-scale invasion, Russia's war of aggression on Ukraine, was originally called a 3-day special military operation. Well, we're now nearing day 1,400 of that 3-day special military operation. And Kyiv, the Ukrainian capital, still stands. Kharkiv, the wonderful city 20 miles from the Russian border, still stands. And while Russia tries to pump out narratives of its own invincibility, of the inevitability of a Russian victory, the facts are that Russia has lost more than 1.1 million people killed or injured during its 4-year war of aggression. I mean, in any other country, these kinds of numbers would cause massive social uprising, they would cause revolutions, people would be taking to the streets to protest the way in which the leaders of that country are throwing so many hundreds of thousands of people into the meat grinders. In Russia, there's been very, very limited protest about the war. And, it doesn't look like changing anytime soon. One thing you maybe didn't know is that since the start of the full-scale invasion, Russia's actually lost land. When it first launched its full-scale invasion, it controlled around 30% of Ukraine. Now it has a sort of tenuous grip on around 20% of Ukraine. But despite that, it's still launching terror attacks every day on Ukrainian civilians. Ukrainian civilians are being killed day in, day out. Friends of mine in Odessa recently had 5 days, a city of almost 1 million people, recently had 5 days in the middle of winter with no electricity and no water. And, you imagine what happens when there's no electricity. You might end up stuck in the lift for days on end. You might live on a tall apartment block and not be able to use the lift. You might have to walk up and down all the stairs. Easy if you're young, not so easy if you're not. You don't have heating, so you're cold. Old people are more vulnerable. I mean, all of these kinds of attacks on civilian infrastructure are basically war crimes. You may also have been distracted by the Trump-directed theatre of so-called peace talks and, various people shuttling backwards and forwards between Moscow and I'll be with you in 1 second, Olga, and Washington and Florida, none of which will lead to any kind of peace, because Putin has made it clear time and time again that he wants to see the complete overthrow of Ukraine as a functioning democratic country. There's also been a massive escalation in the drone war. Some of you may have seen that Ukraine recently took out a Russian submarine using underwater drones, which were able to travel through Russian territory and take out this Russian submarine. Despite not having any kind of navy of its own, Ukraine basically controls large parts of the Black Sea and has made it very difficult for Russian warships to come anywhere near Ukraine. But the war rages on and people still die every day. And as you'll hear, the war still affects Ukrainians. Today's the winter solstice, and this means it's the shortest day of the year. After today, we start to have longer, lighter days. And so it seems like a good day to me to be doing my last live with a Ukrainian teacher of English of 2025. Because I think for myself and for many other people in Europe, Ukraine has come to represent the light against the darkness that Russia offers. It was very clear to me from the start of the full-scale invasion that this was much more than a local dispute, and that whatever happens to Ukraine is what's going to happen to the rest of us in democratic Europe. The fact that Ukrainians are fighting so valiantly for freedom, for democracy, for the right to their own sovereignty, for the right to determine their own future, and fighting against autocracy, dictatorship, fighting for the rule of law and fighting for justice, to me seems like a kind of light or a beacon being held against the encroaching darkness that comes from Russia, that comes from the United States at the moment, and that comes from other autocratic regimes. So today I'm really delighted to be joined by a teacher in Kyiv called Olga. Let me just see if I can get her onto the chat now. Let's see how that works. One sec. Oh, hey.
Hi.
Hello, Olga. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. What about you?
I'm okay. I can't complain. I'm in London, so the only problems
Yes.
the only problems we've got here is it's cold and dark and all of that. But I'm fine. How's everything in Kyiv at the moment?
Yeah, it's pretty good. It has been quiet for the past several weeks, but we have power outages every day for several hours, several times per day. So, of course, people have to adapt. People get used to it. We have many generators working in the streets because all the little cafes and shops, they have to adapt, all the businesses. So, yeah, that's how we live these days.
I was reading the other day that the noise of the generators has become the kind of new background noise of Kyiv, and that wherever you go, there's this kind of humming of generators. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a new Jingle Bells song, I read this joke, and this is true. But I live on the 14th floor. Luckily, I cannot hear them because I live pretty high. But those who live on lower floors, they can enjoy this.
So does that mean when the power outages happen, you can't use the lift or anything in your building? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. We have to walk. Me and my daughter, who is 4 years old, when it is time to go to the kindergarten or when it is time to pick her up. Yeah. So we have to plan. When I need to do my food shopping, I need to plan. I know that I need to do it at the time when the electricity is on. But if it is something not too heavy, then I train. I work out by lifting all this.
You get your 10,000 steps in by just walking up and down the stairs.
Yeah, I'm trying just to justify this in this way that at least maybe it's something good that I do for my health and yeah.
And how much electricity are you getting at the moment in your region? What's the kind of ratio of having electricity, not having electricity?
Well, I'm now a happy person because a week ago we installed a powerful accumulator. It cost an arm and a leg, but now I have electricity all the time in my apartment. That is why I'm less dependent. So only when, for example, when I want to leave, I just check whether the electricity will not be off in the nearest 10 minutes, not to get stuck in the lift. So, but I think now it's better than it was 2 weeks ago because it could be 6 hours in a row during the day or like, I don't know, 6 in the afternoon and then 6 at night. I think now it's shorter, maybe today 3, 4, but still it's a lot.
Yeah.
Well.
And it seems to be one of the Russians' main tactics at the moment is just trying to knock out civilian infrastructure and trying to demoralize people and to kind of, force you to submit by putting darkness and cold on you.
Yeah, because to be honest, this I noticed it after we installed the this battery, that the lack of light. I'm not speaking about using some devices, like I don't know, hair dryer or oven, whatever. You can plan it, but the lack of light, even if you have a lamp, you don't carry it with you in every apartment. So still all the apartment is in the darkness, and it creates so much pressure on your mental system. And when we installed it and I felt again that we have electricity all the time, I really felt that I feel much happier, even despite a very gloomy weather outside. So yes, it creates enormous pressure, and I don't know,
Yeah.
it makes people
I've seen the
better.
pictures of the streets in Kyiv or Kharkiv or whatever where the blackouts are happening, and
Yeah.
it's very, very strange to see big cities in such kind of complete darkness like that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's very petrifying. Yeah, when you look outside and no street lights, no light, just here and there. Yeah, maybe some people have some small lamps, and that's it. And just people outside walking with their like on iPhone. There, this light on. It's I don't know. It looks like the end of the world. Really, that has come already.
And has your part of Kyiv been affected at all by the drone attacks or by the strikes?
Yes, a lot. It was in the summer, actually. The building that is maybe 100 meters from mine was attacked by a drone, and some civilians were killed. And actually, after that, we were seriously considering with my husband that we will relocate to Kyiv region. But then we gave up on that idea. It is very difficult when you have a child, because you are tied to the kindergarten. You understand that there is no kindergarten, so you will have to pay for the apartment and for the private kindergarten, which turns out to be an enormous sum of money. So like we considered, and we stayed here. Yeah.
And it's been quieter since then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
fingers crossed. It's
I'm noticing that when it has been quiet for a long period of time, it's very weird, but I
yeah,
start feeling that, as if I'm missing something, as if there should be something, but something doesn't happen. And it's a kind of strange feeling. I don't understand what that means. It is probably some kind of stress, or maybe this kind of adrenaline. Yeah, because when you know that you have survived,
yeah.
brings you some hormones. So maybe I don't know what it is connected to, but yeah.
I imagine there must be all kinds of different weird mental reactions and habits that you find yourself getting stuck in,
Mhm.
connected to everything that you're going through.
Yeah, that's true.
I've noticed the kind of the strange kind of looking for silver linings and having very dark humor has become very common, because I was chatting to a friend in Kharkiv the other day, and she was telling me, yeah, there's loads of blackouts and it's really difficult to get around the city, but hey, we can see the stars. Um, and I guess it's like you're kind of forced to look for positives from what could otherwise be very bleak situations. Yeah.
Yeah, there have been jokes about death as well. For example, I don't know, it was, I think, a funny reel on the internet that a girl says that I was thinking whether to eat this cake or not, but then I thought, come on, there is war, and it doesn't matter. Yeah, they have coffins of all the sizes. So black humor, isn't it?
It
Yeah.
really is.
Mm-hmm.
So, can I just ask, are you from Kiev originally? Is that where you grew up?
Yeah, I was born and raised and grew up in Kyiv, so I've been here all my life, except for 5 months that we spent in Italy when the first wave of blackouts started. Me and my daughter, we were in Italy for 5 months, and then we returned.
Yeah. And when you were growing up, was your family like a Russian speaking family or a Ukrainian speaking family, or
Oh,
both, or
I
that
was raised
complicated
by
question?
a very pro-Russian grandmother. So I was raised reading Pushkin and Nekrasov and all the Russian writers. I went to a Russian-speaking gymnasium. There was this kind in Kiev. Maybe it still exists. I don't know. Yeah, so that's how I grew up, and it seems to me that at that time, most of the Kievites, they were Russian-speaking. I mean, in the time of my childhood and later as well.
Yeah. I mean, right up until I mean, I've always heard Russian being spoken in Kiev.
Mm-hmm.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, when you hear all the kind of Russian propagandists about, Russians been banned in Ukraine, it's like, oh, really? Because no one's told people there. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's always been that very strange kind of gap between the propaganda and the reality like that.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. Well, I can say that we are now slightly pressurized to speak Ukrainian. Yeah,
Yeah,
because, for example, I made this conscious decision that I will speak Ukrainian with my daughter
yeah,
because I understand that she will be growing in a new country
yeah.
and needs to get adapted. So there are some changes that we undertake. But for example, my husband, he was living in Russia till the high school. Yeah, so he's still Russian speaking, and I think he will
And
be like.
he was born in Russia.
He was born in Hungary. His family are military people, so they are
Okay.
originally Ukrainians, but he spent there like all his young years.
Wow. It must be a very strange feeling to. I know your husband's in the armed forces, yeah?
Yeah, yeah, it's like
And
will be soon 2 years as he.
it must be a very strange thing to find yourself in the armed forces having to fight against a country that you lived in until you were in high school. It must be very
Yeah.
peculiar psychologically.
In addition, they have some relatives there, and they were quite close knit before. I mean, they spoke on the phone and so on. But after this full scale invasion started, my husband cut all the connections because it was I witnessed when one relative called once or twice and he didn't answer, so he completely cut all the ties. But he was showing me that at the beginning of the war some relative of the relative posted a photo with this Z symbol. So of course actions speak louder than words, and yeah, so they cut off all the ties.
I still find this one of the most terrifying and remarkable aspects of the war. That I know around 10 million Ukrainians have family or relatives in Russia. I mean, it's a huge number of people, which means there's at least 10 million Russians who have family or relatives in Ukraine. And people are sitting there quietly, at
Yeah.
best, sitting there quietly
Hmm.
while their relatives get bombed. And at worst, I know they're sending messages saying, we'll liberate you soon, and don't worry, we'll soon all be one, and why don't you just surrender? And I know all these kind of messages are happening as well.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, we didn't receive that sort of messages because there was no communication, but yeah, I think that's what they think.
Yeah, I find this really, really terrifying. I mean, I often think about it like, my brother lives in Scotland and he's
Mhm.
been up there since he was 18. And I try to imagine some sort of situation where there's a war between England and Scotland. And it's just, it's very, very, very weird to imagine how you get in that state where you think it's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Ah,
agree.
yeah. So when did you first become kind of conscious of politics or of being Ukrainian as distinct to being Russian, or what was your kind of process for kind of coming to think about all of this stuff as you were growing up?
Well, I think there were different political events in Ukraine going on, like this Euromaidan and different other political revolutions, so to say. So, of course, everybody knew about them, and these events couldn't have been ignored. But I cannot say that I was deeply concerned about what was going on. I think I was just living my life basically until the 2022 and that horrible morning when we all understood that something went really wrong.
So even through 2014, when Crimea's annexed and everything, in a way, I guess if you're in Kyiv and you don't know people or you don't have connections to those regions, it's quite easy to kind of carry on your life without properly engaging with that. Or how did it work for you? What was
Yeah,
your memories of 2014?
well, I cannot say that back in 2014 the life in Kiev has changed a lot. Yeah, we knew, of course, I was completely pissed off when I knew that Crimea was annexed, and then that we lost some territories. And I know that we lost Crimea even without fighting, so that was maybe some sort of political agreement. So
Yeah.
we just it just became Russian, and that's it. Of course, it was overwhelming, but at that time, I remember that again we had this Euromaidan going on, and the
Yeah.
situation was so much unstable. There was also economic crisis at the same time, because every time something like this happens in our country, this exchange rate goes insane, and you think
Yeah.
about different other things instead of politics. And life in Kiev didn't change at all, I can say. Yes, so everything was working. I mean, all the restaurants, all the clubs, and people lived their life as normal. And when this escalation in the east of Ukraine, it started to go down, yeah, maybe there was some little attacks from each side, but it felt like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
it kind of froze, I guess. The front line froze and the conflict kind of
Yeah.
froze, yeah?
Yes, so the conflict froze, and I thought that why don't they finish it? Why does this continue? Because there was not a lot going on, as I understand, yeah, after 2014 on this front line, and so yeah, I think I was quite ignorant about what was going on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's quite a common phenomenon that a lot of people felt actually talking to people. And, I mean, I know for myself when I was still going to Russia at that point, and I was still coming to Ukraine as well, and I didn't really think much about what was happening apart from, taking other people's land isn't a good thing. But beyond that, I didn't really have much
Hmm.
awareness of the fact that it was part of a much longer plan, I guess. I think I was quite naive about where it was all headed.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, we didn't think about that. I agree.
And so what was your experience of like February 2022?
So
Where were you? You were in Kyiv, yeah?
Yeah, we were in Kiev. My daughter just turned 6 months, and
Yes.
we just had COVID, all our family, and we had some plans like to baptize my daughter in March and so on. But yeah, just I remember all these signs, all the conversations, and we listened to Putin's speech. But I think actually no one believed that it will really happen. But it happened. Yeah, we just heard some blasts at night or in the morning, and I remember that on the first day I took a photograph out of my window, gloomy gray sky, gray skyscrapers, and just I posted the story that we're afraid, we haven't been outside, and so on. And at night they started bombing. We spent the night in a shelter, and then in the morning, we headed to the village. We were invited to stay there with our relatives. It was maybe 100 kilometers from Kiev, in Bila Tserkva region. And we spent there maybe 3 months, the following 3 months.
Wow. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you said you went to Italy at one point as well, yeah?
Yeah, we returned. We returned to Kyiv in May. We spent here all the summer, all the autumn, and then the first blackout started. At that time,
2022.
on the 23rd or 22nd floor, and my daughter was only 1 year old, so you can imagine.
Yeah, yeah.
And we didn't have any generators, anything what people have these days. Yeah, at that time we had nothing, so it was insane, because there were blackouts for maybe 24 hours, more than 24 hours. I had nowhere to charge my phone. So we sat with my husband, and we decided that we need to go. So only me and my daughter, she was 1 year and 3 months at that time, a suitcase, a backpack, diapers, a pram, and me and her, we headed to Italy. Yeah.
Well, why Italy?
Yeah, because my husband's colleague, a Ukrainian woman, she was there at that time, luckily for us, in a very small town in the north of Italy in the mountains, and she managed to rent an apartment for us to find it. So that's why we went there, because we had where to live. And so she made this agreement, and we bought the tickets and went.
And what made you decide to come back to Ukraine after only 5 months? I mean, knowing that the full-scale war was still going on and...
Mm-hmm. Uh, Again, the primary reason that why we left was because of the blackout. The
Yeah.
blackout stopped. Yeah, this is first thing. Second, well, I couldn't work there because I couldn't conduct my lessons. Yeah, only when my daughter was sleeping at the daytime, but it was not real job, because it was either I have to cut all my life in Kyiv and to start to adapt in Italy, to take my daughter to the kindergarten, to find some job, yeah, like to organize my life. Probably I was not ready for that, and I think it's very hard to maintain a family when you are apart. When I wanted my daughter to have a father, kind of, but now she still doesn't have him because he's away in any case. Yeah, I cannot say that I regret that decision, because my mother helps me here immensely. It's very difficult, when you are a like single woman abroad with a child. It's very hard. My greatest fear was what happens with my daughter if I fall ill. What if I don't know, have appendicitis? If I lose my consciousness? Yeah, there was that woman. But what? Like, will they take my daughter to the orphanage? She's so much attached to me. It made I don't know. Like, I had some
Yeah.
feeling thoughts about it. So it is, still when they say that there is no place like home here, of course, I feel more protected. I know everything. I have more opportunities. I have my family near. So probably that was the reason.
And how did you get into teaching in the first place, Olga? What was your kind of route to teaching?
Oh, it was very interesting because I liked English since my early age. I started learning it about maybe 5. And I think my brain was always kind of hardwired to learn English because I could remember some words easily and so on. But, due to my upbringing, my family always instilled in me that you need to study well to get good marks, and then you will be very successful in your life. So that's how I pictured it. And when upon graduation from the college, I understood that I have to work at school. It was unexpected. I didn't think that I will have to work there, because I thought that maybe I would immediately, I don't know, go into business and become an executive or whatever. So yeah, it was, I wasn't quite happy about that at the beginning, but then I was really afraid because I had to teach like 8th graders, yeah, teenagers. I remember back then that my mother gave me an advice that, like, if it is interesting for you, it will be interesting for them. So I started following this advice, yeah, and that's how I got into teaching, basically, by receiving pedagogical education. And
Was your mum a teacher as well, or?
no, none of my family is a teacher, but my aunt, she used to had a nursery school, yeah, so she was a head, and now she's just a nursery school teacher, or but yeah, nursery worker.
And now you run your own school, right?
Yeah, about a year ago, I started my own small school. It is pretty small, and I still continue to teach. I teach my own groups of teachers, like IELTS for teachers.
Okay.
Advanced English, and I have some one-to-one students, like the old ones, so to say. And yeah, I also juggle it with managing my school, hiring teachers, organizing trial lessons for new students, and so on and so forth.
It's quite a bold move to start up a business during wartime.
Yeah, I cannot say that it wasn't a conscious decision. Just I always thought when my schedule was full and I was not able to take new students who came to me, I always thought like, why should I lose them? If I had my own school, I would give them to my teachers and not lose the money and so on. So I cannot say that I had unrealistic approach, but that's what I thought, and actually that's what I did, yeah, because I decided that maybe I can work a little bit less and to be a school owner, but and now I can say that it is harder than I thought, because when to find enough teachers for one person is one thing. To find enough students for 5 or 6 or 10 people is absolutely different. And it is hard also if you don't have any sufficient investment. So yeah, I'm now much more experienced than 1 year ago.
Yeah, yeah. It can be like a quite a steep learning curve, yeah.
It is indeed, yeah.
And how has the war affected like your teaching and affected your students and affected what you're doing as a business? I mean, I'm guessing there must be many different answers to that, but what would you say have been the noticeable changes for you?
That's an interesting question. Maybe regarding the students, because the people are affected,
Yeah,
yes. I remember that when the war started, I had a couple of students. I lost all of them because one went abroad, another, yeah, needed a break. And I thought that I would never work again because everything has been ruined. But then people started to come. Maybe people's interests in learning English have changed because many of them can boast quite high level in
yeah.
English. They need English to work abroad, and they really interact with English all the time. Also, I can say that more people require IELTS because we specialize in IELTS. It has become much more popular for young people, for adults. So the
And
demand.
are you working face to face, Olga, or are you doing online, or are you doing a bit of both?
No, it's only online. We don't
Okay,
work.
okay.
Yeah. And well, I can say that the market is very, very competitive. And I visited a conference. It was like a business conference in the sphere of education for about a month ago, where I learned that such schools as mine that are small, that maybe don't have even their own website, and that are promoted mainly with the help of brand of the creator of the school, they're called boutique schools. I like this name a lot. Sounds like boutique, maybe some
It sounds much
store.
better than small
Yeah,
schools. Yeah,
small.
it's
Yeah. Uh, so everyone, and I think many teachers, they choose this way. Yeah, everyone can start their own school now. You don't need any premises. You don't need to buy computers, chairs, whatever. It is very easy, and that is why the competition is like very high, I can say, and you compete both with really huge schools that have probably, I don't know, $10,000 on advertising, because you can hear their advertising from anywhere, to some small, like maybe no-name schools, yeah, that only grow due to the popularity or like charisma of their owner. So it's difficult. It's
yeah.
difficult.
Well, when I posted this morning on a few different social media sites about the fact I was doing this live with you, someone on, I think it was on TESOL Ukraine, wrote a comment underneath saying, "Oh, Olga's great. She's been a huge supporter of Ukrainian businesses and schools." And I wondered if you could just say a bit more about what else you're doing to kind of. Oh, why would someone write this? What was the background for this?
No, maybe it could be for another person. Okay. Well, my philosophy is that I think every teacher in Ukraine has to earn good money and has to be independent. And my heart really bleeds when I see some announcements on Facebook, like we are looking for a one-to-one tutor and we are ready to pay 250 hryvnias, which is like $5. And there are so many people who agree. I think it's insane because there is no such dumping in any sphere like in the sphere of English. That is why maybe one of my goals, why I now teach these groups of IELTS for teachers, because I say them that first of all, you increase your level of English and you can work with adults, you can work with students of higher level, not only help school children do their homework, you can do exams preparation, you can find your niche, you can earn more money. Because as I mentioned, this price, that we can now find English lessons at one-to-one lessons. I think it's unbelievable because whenever it comes to something different, like visiting yoga classes or dancing classes or driving classes, there is a certain price range, and you understand that for this price you will get a group lesson. For this price, you will get a one-to-one lesson. But for some reason, when it comes to English, people get one-to-one lessons for 200 or 250 hryvnias, which I think is very unjust because you have to spend years learning English and learning how to teach. And then it ends up that these teachers don't earn. They don't have money to improve themselves. Because if you want to visit...
you're stuck in a kind of a vicious circle like that,
At the moment, I'm visiting a C2 level course, in a group. So I pay for this. I took certification in your language coaching. If you want to take CELTA, Delta, whichever.
it all costs money.
You have to invest, but you need money for that. Like you cannot you cannot learn everything just by yourself or just by following someone on Instagram or I don't know, like liking their posts or whatever. So, and it's a vicious circle, as you mentioned.
I think it's often like the less money you're earning, the harder you have to work, and the harder you work, the less time you have to spend on self-development, and so you're kind of stuck in that little kind of like death cycle in a way, and you don't have the money anyway to invest in your own self-development, so you're kind of very, very trapped like that.
Unfortunately. And when I started my own school, I started having interviews with teachers, and it is another very interesting aspect of my life, because when I set some requirements and some people write to me and ask what their level is, and they say B1, I say, well, you cannot work with adults with B1 because they can have B2 level. Teach them, and then I ask, but are you planning to improve your level somehow? And no response, because again, to improve your level, it's not enough just to listen one video on YouTube. You need some consistent work with a teacher usually, and again, it's a question of time, money, effort, and priorities. So unfortunately.
And I guess it's funny because I mean, we started our little boutique online language school during COVID, and it took me a long time to realize that one of the things we were actually doing was helping teachers to earn more money. And I guess, like, as a teacher, I never wanted to. I don't like thinking about money. I got into teaching because I wanted to think about teaching and about people and about materials and about classroom dynamics and psychology and all of that. And it took me quite a long time, actually. I mean, really, thanks to a Ukrainian friend of mine, Victor, who helped me to kind of think about what is it you're actually selling and why should someone buy it. And it was like, And when I had to start thinking about it, you realize, of course, I guess it's thinking about language development as being part of teacher development. And I think for a long time, these two things have been thought of as two separate things, It was almost like teachers can develop through doing teacher training courses, but not necessarily by developing their language. But I mean, as you were saying, all across Europe these days, I mean, I remember when I first started going to Poland in like the late 90s, early 2000s, everything was about general English. And within 10 years, it had moved to a stage where most of the teachers you'd meet at the conferences spoke amazing English themselves, and a lot of the schools were doing business English, and beyond that they were doing like soft skills, negotiating in English,
Mhm.
you know, all of that kind of legal English, financial English, and they were diversifying into these very niche high level areas. And that all happened very quickly there. And I mean, I see it now happening with Ukraine and Ukrainian teachers, where the general level of English at conferences is really high. And I see a lot of teachers diversifying into different kinds of areas.
Yeah, it is a very interesting situation because we have our own like stars, or I don't know how to call
Yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
These are teachers that I look up to. Yes, they have, it's not only about the certificates, it's about their understanding that they really push this area, and they push the standards in ESP, in, including this coaching approach in teaching English and so on. And there is a very big number of teachers who just work,
Yeah.
Probably my goal is, or my dream is, to try to push at least some of those who want, because not everyone wants, but at least those who want, I'd like to push them a bit higher, so that they can raise their head above the water and see that there is this opportunity and that opportunity, that you can go to conference in the US and in the UK and socialize and do networking. But again, it requires something, some effort.
Yeah.
And that it's at your disposal, but you need to do something to reach it. So that you shouldn't complain that life is so bad or that the salary is so low, because I used to be a university teacher myself. I spent more than 10 years working at university. I like the job. I received my PhD degree, but at some point I understood that it's not worth it. I'm earning much more money with my private students. I don't feel any sense of achievement at university because they take everything I do for granted. And I understood that I'm just wasting my time, but I could have continued there, and I would have been in a totally different place from now. Like, I cannot say I didn't earn $1 million. Yeah, I don't own a huge school and so on, but I'm happy with my workload. I teach only 3 days per week, and I feel that I'm developing and not that I'm stuck in a rut like I think many teachers are,
I mean,
unfortunately.
I think it must be even more true for you in your context, but I think anybody who's self-employed, you're forced to constantly confront new and unexpected situations that you weren't expecting to have to deal with. And so you're constantly having to kind of go, so this year we got this problem now. Right, okay, how do we deal with this? And I mean, that keeps it both quite frustrating but also very interesting, I think. And it means you constantly have to think about how to adapt and develop to new realities.
Yeah, that's true. But for me, taking my own responsibility is maybe because I'm a person who likes to control. Yeah, I'm a control geek. For me, to take responsibility for what depends on me is much easier than, for example, when I received a call at university and they told me, okay, tomorrow at 12 there is a meeting. You have to be there, and I have 5 lessons there, and I will earn half of my, I don't know, month's salary. And now
Yeah.
I have cancel it and reschedule, and what for? Like, so it's a matter of I don't know, I just need to find what fits you well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was at a university here in London for 18 years, and in the end, they made us all redundant, and
Mm,
they hired far less experienced teachers on really shitty contracts, and they decided that being average is good enough for them, and that's what they wanted because they could save some money. So it's like In a way, I think it was a good wake up call for me, because if that hadn't happened, I could quite happily have just carried on doing that and cruised through
Yeah.
to retirement, because I mean, I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the work, and I enjoyed the students, and I enjoyed being face to face. But now I look back at it and kind of feel like that was like another lifetime almost. It was a different kind of reality. Much prefer having my own control. I mean, like you were saying, my own control over my own kind of destiny in that way.
Yeah, in the way that we can control. Yeah,
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Yeah. Do you mind if I ask about your husband, Olga? When he joined up, did he was he mobilized, or did he volunteer?
He was mobilized. He used to work in an IT company, so he's an IT specialist.
Okay.
He was mobilized almost 2 years ago, and since then he has been in the army. Luckily, he is not on the front line, but he is quite close. He is in Kharkov region,
Okay.
and yeah, I don't know what else can I say, because I have very mixed feelings about this, because I was very angry at the beginning, and I tried to talk him into not going there, just staying at home, because our daughter was still small. We just bought an apartment. We had debts, and he receives this mobilization invitation, and of course, I don't know, it was crazy. But yeah, actually, people can get used to everything, and we got used to this. It still makes my heart break, because I see that my daughter is growing without a father. She
Yeah.
doesn't have any example of a family. So her family is me, my mother, and her, three women. And when my husband comes, for example, she can ask mother, why do you hug the father? She doesn't know what this is. She doesn't see this. And yeah, I think even when the war is over, still my daughter will never be 2. She will never be 3.
Yeah.
She will have her birthdays again. And I believe that these years, it's not even I believe, yeah, but the psychologists say that this time before the age of 5
Yeah.
is vital for a child, because all the basic principles are set, yeah, are built. But unfortunately, we have what we have. Yeah, I'm trying to give her what I can, but I cannot be her father.
Yeah. I guess it's also it takes a long time before you get to a stage that you can understand that what your father was doing was, something that helped you to stay where you are and to protect the country and all of that. You don't have that understanding when you're a kid.
Yeah, or maybe she even has more understanding than me, because
Well,
she's
maybe, yeah.
yeah, because when she is asking where the father is, so when the war started, she was only 6 months, and I was happy that I don't have to explain anything to her. But
Yeah.
now growing, I need to explain everything to her.
Yeah.
So I tell her that yeah, your father is protecting our country, so that we can live here, so that we can enjoy our life. So she knows it, but yeah, still it's.
And I know that I'm not sure how well known it is outside of Ukraine, but I know that, a large percentage of the Ukrainian army is basically civilians. Yeah. I mean, I've got other friends serving who are from teaching backgrounds, and when I talk to them, like the guys that they're serving with are all kinds of different backgrounds. There's like a dentist, and there'll be an IT guy, and there'll be a designer, and there'll be a guy who used to be a musician, and you've got these kind of civilians all basically joining up the armed forces to kind of serve and protect, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, that's true, absolutely. But
Don't know what the percentage is, but I mean, it must be high, the
yeah,
civilian.
Just because when my husband graduated from his university, it was a polytechnic university. He had this, I don't know what it is called, like military degree. So he graduated many years ago, being an officer. That's
Okay.
why he was mobilized as an officer, but still he was not an officer, yeah, because he used to work in an IT company. Yeah, so he did some training in whatever they told him. Yeah, that's true. There are people from many different backgrounds, and particularly again from my husband's company, which is an IT company. Many people got mobilized. Yeah.
And if you have like a partner in the armed forces, how much contact are you allowed to have, or how much contact do you manage to have?
It's not very much. I mean, he can call me once in several days. That's yeah. He gets vacation maybe for 2 weeks during a year, and
Okay.
when he was working in Kharkov, it was when I visited your training in Kharkov
Okay.
this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also came there for the purpose of seeing my husband. Basically, that's it. Yeah, and there was one time when me and my daughter, we came to, not to Kharkov, of course, but to a city, and he also came there, and we spent together several days. So it's like several times per year. That's not much, and but for him, it's more or less. I think that some men, they can see their families even more rarely.
Yeah. 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 It must be very, very difficult. Yeah. So can I ask you, like, how do you feel now when you see everything that's going on in the kind of wider world with the Trump kind of driven peace talks and Vitkov and Dmitriev going backwards and forwards, and all of the talk about Ukraine having to accept compromises and peace deals coming soon and all of that kind of thing? How do you feel when you're watching all of that?
Well, of course, all of us want the war to be over because we are. I think I'm speaking not only of myself, but it's the opinion of many people. We are very, very tired, and we are shattered by this war. Even those who live in Kyiv, and no matter in which city. But it seems to me that now our Western allies, of course, we are very grateful for their help because without them, we wouldn't have been able to fight. We have to admit that in any case, Russia is a very strong country and a big country with many people who are eager to be killed. And but it seems to me that now they're using Ukraine just as a buffer zone because we were just protecting the rest of the world from Russia with our blood and with our people. And of course, I want it to be over, but I hope we will not be forced into some, I don't know, some conditions that are unacceptable.
What would be unacceptable from your point of view?
Oh, I don't know. It's very hard because realistically thinking, I understand that we will not get all our territories back. It seems to me, or at least the borderline should be before 2022. This is at least, yeah, no, not more, of course. And regarding all these payments, yeah, reparations that Russia must make to rebuild our territories and some agreement of not attacking us, which had been signed. These agreements, they had been signed earlier, and in fact, they never worked. So I don't know. I don't know. Actually, there are some people who say that there will be the repetition of this in 10 years, in 20 years, and so on, no matter how it all finishes now. So it's a very difficult question.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's hard looking at Russia at the moment to see how it changes into something different.
Very different, yeah.
It's really hard. But yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think that the main emphasis just seems to be on managing to contain Russia, essentially. And I guess the Russians are also very unpredictable. I think one thing that's been interesting from being outside of Ukraine is they're becoming more brazen or brave about the provocations towards other European countries. And I guess this is intended to intimidate people. And
Mm-hmm.
I guess in some situations, like with Belgium, it seems to work. But I think in lots of other situations, it clearly has the opposite effect. I was just reading an article this afternoon about the what do you call it, the shadow fleet, the Russian shadow fleet,
Mm-hmm.
and they were saying that over the last 3 months, all of these ships that they're using to transport the oil, they used to like be, I don't know, registered in Liberia or Panama or something,
Mm-hmm.
and now they're actually starting to fly them with Russian flags on them, because it's just a way of kind of going, we can fucking do what we want. What are you going to do about it, hey? And it's almost like inviting, it's just a kind of taunt. It's like, if we can get away with this, why would we not get away with this? And I guess I don't want to say it's a hope I have, but I think one thing that's very possible to happen is that sooner or later they'll keep pushing because they don't feel they're being stopped, and at some point they'll do something really, really stupid, and we'll see what kind of reaction that provokes. But there's a lot of unexpected possible. I guess there's a lot of like black swans that can still
Mm-hmm.
happen, there can be all kinds of different black swans.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we are afraid that, even if Russia does something crazy, we will just again read these headlines that
Strong words.
express our concern. We'd like to express our concern, and but what it is, I don't know, as if someone is killing another person next to you, and you are just standing there and expressing your concern. Well, that's obviously not the normal reaction that should follow such things.
I often wonder the degree to which Ukrainians feel. I mean, I think the way you said that there's a kind of feeling of, I guess betrayal is the wrong word, but a feeling of, I don't know, like you said, being used as the buffer zone in a way.
Yeah, but it's betrayal as well. I'm not I don't know the details very much in depth, but I know that when we refused our nuclear weapon
Yeah,
many years ago, like 20 or 25,
yeah,
there
95.
was an agreement and with Russia and some Western countries
Yeah, the
that,
UK.
but we get protection, and what do we get? Nothing.
Well, you now seem to have two of the three countries which signed up to that, basically aligning to kind of force Ukraine into some kind of surrender, which is
Yeah.
incredible. I mean, I guess it's also a huge shock for Europe at the moment as a whole to come to terms with what the Trump presidency means, and with Trump's role in allying with Moscow against Europe, and
Hmm.
seeing Europe as more of a problem than Russia. And I think for a lot of people in Europe, that's a very difficult thing to accept and to understand, because for 80 years we've seen America as a kind of guarantor of our peace.
Yeah.
Probably stupidly. Maybe we shouldn't have done that. Maybe we should have been responsible for our own peace. And I guess what I see in the UK as well is these kind of tensions between people who understand the crucial importance of continuing to support Ukraine, and people who just sort of say, we just want peace, so we should stop supplying military weapons, and we should just hope that peace then happens. And there's a lot of that. There's a lot of kind of, this isn't our war, we've got our own problems, we've got homeless people here, we've got families starving, why are we spending money on this? We should be looking after our own people. And I understand that for European politicians, that's a difficult thing to deal with, but
Yeah, I think it's a normal position, and maybe if I lived in Europe, I would have had the same opinion. Who knows? Yeah, just like when again, back in 2014, people who lived in Kyiv,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they maybe didn't care about what is going on in their own country. So what to say about another country? And of course, I understand that some European countries, they're already kind of tired of helping Ukraine and that there are Ukrainian refugees. But you can imagine how much we are tired.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we just cannot give half of the Ukrainian territories to them and be happy friends ever after. It's not possible. Just it will never happen.
I think the conversation people don't have enough is, if you think things are bad and expensive and you're fed up with Ukrainian refugees and funding the war now, what do you think happens if Russia wins? You know,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the conversation that people need to have more often, which is like, okay, fine, we stop supporting Ukraine, we stop sending weapons. What happens next? You know, how many more refugees do you think there's going to be? What do you think Russia does then? What do you think happens to Moldova? What do you think happens to Estonia? You know, what happens to Poland after that? And I think people don't think that bit through. They just
Yeah,
kind of think that,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, but Putin said he doesn't want to attack us. Ah, why would he lie?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I find this bit very, very scary. So it may be a stupid question to ask at this stage, but what are your, how are you feeling going into 2026?
Okay. Well, some time ago, I have admitted to myself that I'm living on a survival mode. Yeah, just trying to live my life. That is why I don't have any overly ambitious plans for 2026. Of course, I would like to travel more, to rest more. I have some directions how I want my business to develop, but basically, yeah, I just, if it is not worse than now, and if I don't gain any more kilos in the 2026, I'm happy with that. Of course, it's a joke. Of course, we are all hoping that the war will be over soon. As a person living in Ukraine, I now don't see any signs of it being over in 2026, but who knows? Yeah, we are not politicians. Maybe they are discussing something and they will have some consensus on the conditions that suit us, not only them. So we'll see. Yeah, I think that we'll just try to survive in 2026.
It's a good ambition.
Yeah.
It's, and I just wondered if there was anything else that you wanted to share or to say to people who are maybe outside of Ukraine. Because I know there'll be people from other bits of Europe watching this. I know from looking at the names here, we have some people in Russia watching as well. Um, I just wondered if there was anything else you wanted to share or to say.
Yeah, Hugh, first of all, I'd like to thank you for inviting me and to tell that you are a very brave person because you came to Ukraine, to Odessa and Kharkiv. Me, being a citizen of Ukraine, I wouldn't dare to go to Odessa, to be honest, because for me it is scary. And as I mentioned, the reason
It
why,
was great. It was great.
yeah, I believe you, but still. And the reason why I went to Kharkov was to visit your training, but also to see my husband. Yeah, if it was not for my husband, probably I wouldn't go just because, again, I wouldn't risk. So yeah, thanks for spreading this information about Ukraine to the rest of the world. As we discussed some questions before this conversation, I read this question about whether I would like to tell something or to explain something to Russians. It was a thought-provoking question, and my answer is no. I decided that, if after almost 4 years there are some things that still need to be explained, then they don't need to be explained, because I think everything is crystal clear. And I can only say that I think they're a nation of slaves, because no matter what is going on in their country, I know I'm following some news that the internet is forbidden or
Yeah,
stopped, Instagram, Telegram, YouTube, they don't receive us to European countries, to the US, and they are still happy living in their country. I have nothing to tell these people, really. And of course, yeah, as we have Christmas, I still wish you and everyone Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. To be kinder to yourself, your families, and all the people who need help.
This was the last thing I was going to ask you. Tell me about your Christmas.
Yeah, it's very interesting because you know that for the past several years we had this change in the dates, and now
Yeah.
Christmas is celebrated like in all the European countries and in the US. So we are also having Christmas on the 24th and 25th. To be honest, we didn't celebrate the previous years, and I think I don't have any festive mood this year because still New Year is more important for us, and we always think what we will cook, how we will spend it, and so on. But still, I decided that despite I'm working my usual working day on Thursday, we will have a celebration on Wednesday, some small family celebration for the sake of my daughter, because we read with her books about Christmas, and I think that I need to instill this feeling in her, yeah, because for me this feeling hasn't come yet, the 25th, but maybe it will, and she is a new person, yeah, into this world, and she will learn it, and she will always feel it like a part of her holiday, so it is my responsibility to instill it in her, yeah.
And have you planned your menu for New Year's?
No, not really. Actually, I'm not really into cooking, so maybe champagne and some salad. And
That's the kind of
that's
menu I
enough.
can get behind.
Yeah, yeah.
So I hope you have safe, warm, power friendly days over the coming days. I hope you have a great Christmas and a new year. Um, all the best to your daughter and to your husband and everything he's doing as well. And thank you so much, Olga, for your time. And Slava Ukraini.
Heroям Slava. Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you. Look after yourself, yeah?
Yeah, bye.